Hey, it's JJ Virgin, and welcome to the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show, where I give you the latest cutting-edge intel to help you look, feel, and think better. Now, today's show is all about how you can be your own best doctor. And it's coming from a doctor. In fact, it's coming from someone who was a super popular guest on this show a couple years ago. Kind of ridiculous. I was like, where the heck have you been? And it is my buddy, Dr. Bill Davis. You know him as the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Wheat Belly. Oh my gosh, this is the guy that really started it all with helping get gluten gone out there in the world. And so he's written Wheat Belly. Then he wrote Wheat Belly Total Health. And that's where he started to pull all the grains out. And then the Wheat Belly Cookbook, Wheat Belly 30 Minutes or Less Cookbook, Wheat Belly 10-Day Grain Detox. Now he has really stirred up the pot. And that's what I was commenting to him about. It's like, oh, you've really stepped in at this time, because what he discovered as he was helping people go through this process is that a lot of these things they would typically go to the doctor for just went away, especially when he added in a couple other things. And he's going to talk about the 6 things that you can do that probably will fix most of the issues that you have, so that if you do need to go to the doctor, it will just be for very specific things like, you know, I don't know, you broke your leg or something. So very interesting, cool stuff. And again, what he found as he brought people through the Wheat Belly plan, and as he brought people through Wheat Belly, he realized that it's not just about the wheat, it's also about the grains, a lot of what we talk about in the sugar impact diet. And then he took it a step further to look at some of the nutrient deficiencies and gut microbiome. So I'm super excited for him to share those his special 6 with you. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Let me just tell you a little bit more about him. I'm sure you've seen him all over the place. He's a cardiologist and again, an author, but he's just been all over the media. Dr. Oz, CBS This Morning, NPR, Live with Kelly, been on Bill Riley, and he's been in a lot of different newspapers and magazines, First for Women, Women's World, New York Post, Chicago Tribune, The Atlantic, Women's Health. And he's got his Wheat Belly blog with 700,000 plus visitors a month and 300,000 followers on Facebook. He's just a busy guy. So I am very excited to share Dr. Bill Davis with you today. All right, let's do it, Dr. Bill Davis. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here with me today.
Great to be here, JJ.
I know, it's been a while. It's been like 2 years or so since we chatted about the
If not more. Yeah, if not more than that.
Gosh, what the heck? What have you been doing?
Well, the Wheat Belly world continues to grow, but it's sprouted this new thing, so that we want to talk about today.
Yes, I want to talk about this new book, and boy, you are one brave doc to go out there and write a book called Undoctored.
Well, to be frank, JJ, I just got so pissed off at the way my colleagues conduct themselves and try to paint healthcare as delivering health. You know, to me, it's like calling the prison system the good behavior system, pretending that they turn out these well-behaved previous inmates. Well, that's not true, of course, and they don't put that charade on. But the healthcare system puts on this charade that they're turning out healthy people, which, of course, you and I know is complete nonsense.
Yeah, I always love it when people take bold stances. And, you know, with Wheat Belly, you took this bold stance, took a lot of arrows, and completely like brought gluten to the forefront as the evil villain that it is. And then you moved into grains. And so, what did you start to see through all of this that prompted you to write this book?
JJ, over and over and over again, I heard this. I did the Wheat Belly program. That, as you say, was expanded to wheat and other grains, then correct some of the nutritional deficiencies that persisted despite that, and then correcting other common deficiencies that you and your listeners know all about, like iodine and omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin D. And this is what I heard from people. I told my doctor I was going to do this, and he said it was stupid, that I was going to have a heart attack, that I'd get sick or wouldn't work. I did it on my
don't you love, I used to hear, if you pull out gluten, you're going to get a deficiency.
That's right. That's right. Or you'd be constipated because of lack of fiber or some nonsense. So people would do this despite their doctors, and they'd come back and they say, I went to the doctor and he didn't believe it because I was 57 pounds lighter. I no longer had acid reflux. My fibromyalgia and IBS was gone. My ulcerative colitis was so much better. I got off 3 medicines. I'm no longer a type 2 diabetic. I'm off insulin and 3 oral drugs. My migraine headaches, my eczema, psoriasis, and seborrhea are gone. And they did this, JJ, despite the doctor. They didn't do it with the doctor's assistance. They didn't do it with the doctor's supervision. They didn't do it with the doctor's approval. They did it despite the bungling of their doctor. So what I saw is that what we really have here, and a lot of us are converging. Your program, a lot of the other authors, the people who are thinking about these kinds of issues are converging on a very similar message, that people are doing this on their own. And they're not achieving results that are maybe as good as what people get from the healthcare system. We're getting results that are vastly superior.
You want to hear something funny that you bring this up? I have a girlfriend, her name's Dr. Diana Schwartzbein, and she wrote these books ages ago. She was an endocrinologist. And she was kind of the precursor to a lot of the stuff that we do. Mm-hmm. And it was all based on her patients who were cheating. She said they'd come back and I was going, wow, you got such great results. And she found that the patients that were getting the great results were the patients who weren't following the American Diabetes Association guidelines that she'd given them.
That's great. Isn't that something? That we now have official agencies like the American Diabetes Association, this nonsense of American Heart Association most recently, that saturated fat.
Oh my gosh, wasn't that crazy?
That's been there too.
Corn oil. Like,
isn't that something unbelievable? The first product that the American Heart Association endorsed was Crisco. And they held that up as heart healthy, as their perfect example of heart healthy. Of course, we now know that's nonsense. Trans fatty acids are horrible. But that's been the tune of the American Heart Association for decades now, holding up the wrong message that actually causes heart disease.
Yeah, just like those cereal boxes with the high fructose corn syrup and all the crap in them, and they've got the American Heart Association whole grain stamp of approval. I'm like, come on, people.
Count Chocula, Berry Kicks, and Cocoa Puffs have all enjoyed the American Heart Association stamp of approval health checkmark program as heart healthy. We all know that's ridiculous. They're essentially sugar, amylopectins of grains along with added sugar. It's largely sugar and horrible for health, and yet these haven't been endorsed. Anyway, so the organizations we thought we could trust not only give us ineffective advice, they give us advice that causes disease. And so, if they got it right in the first place, JJ, imagine the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the USDA got their U.S. dietary guidelines for Americans right from the start. And we had a nation of slender, non-diabetic people. Well, then we wouldn't have to do these kinds of things. But they got it so colossally wrong that you and I have to talk to people and say, listen, pay no mind to those people. Because they're too deep in the pocket of commercial interests like big pharma and medical device industry and big food. Here's what the truth is. And lo and behold, JJ, as you're seeing with your audience, people are getting slender and healthy.
Right. And it's like when you first look at, remember the food guide pyramid, the silliness of that was created ages ago there was no science behind it.
That's right. So, and the USDA allowed commercial interests, including agribusiness, to weigh in. And of course, what do? They upped the intake of grains dramatically, almost double the intake of grains over what the dietitians had decided. So the dietitians got it wrong in the first place, but then big agribusiness and big food got a say, and it mucked it up further.
Yeah, it's just incredible. And the big challenge I see out there, and this is what honestly breaks my heart, is, and I think the internet honestly is the great equalizer, because we can, I can put anything now on my podcast. I don't have to worry about being shut down by the advertisers or anything else. So I can do what I want. But the challenge I see out there is you've got people who don't know who to believe, what to believe. And then they lose faith in themselves. They start to not trust their own bodies and decisions because what they're hearing out there, they're doing, it's not working. They're getting fatter. And so they think that it's just some problem with their genes.
AJ, what you're doing is so important. What you're doing, other podcasts are doing, YouTube, open social media is so critical now, because now what we see is that network and cable TV runs so many direct-to-consumer drug ads that they don't want to run any negative reporting on healthcare. On one network, the last time they ran a negative report on healthcare, and this is literally true, 2007, John Stossel's 2020 report on the problems with healthcare insurance. In 10 years, they've not had one negative report on healthcare. Healthcare politics, yes, but not the problems in healthcare. And that's what's happened to major media. They don't want to talk about the problems in healthcare.
Wow. Well, I know when I was on Rachel Ray with the Virgin Diet and I was talking about the issues with dairy, and then I had to go do a dairy disclaimer afterwards. I'm like, oh gosh. Yep.
So the freedom of speech is preserved in your podcast and similar sorts of media, but it's no longer present in major media.
No, it isn't. So you've got to find those people you know and trust. And here's the thing. It's like we're in this for the long game, and you can tell by the results. And the results you're getting with your patients are stunning. The results we've seen with people who went, and what I love with your work is I remember early on I was doing something and one of my followers said, but you used to say that was okay, and now you're saying to have this instead. And I go, so am I not allowed to learn? Like, do you want me just to, if I said something once, we should never change that opinion if new research and science comes up? And, that's just crazy. And I love how you've built on the wheat belly and then just continue to build on that with total health and the 10-day grain detox and just continuing to learn and get amazing results with your patients. And I know this was a big, bold stance to come out with this book, but, and you're saying that patients have become smarter than their doctors, which is a really bold statement. So what do you mean by that?
What I mean, JJ, is that we're now developing collective wisdom, the capacity to collaborate online, whether we call it Facebook or Instagram or discussion forums or some of the new websites like patientslikeme.com or curetogether.com, or what I hope some of the Undoctored properties become. In other words, what we're doing right now is a form of collaboration. We're sharing information, insights, new information. The pace of information is breakneck now. It's so fast. And so I've changed my mind also, just as you have. If you don't change your mind, nobody gets everything right. Nobody does. The ones who are left behind are the doctors who don't understand why people come back from you or your program or me or my program, and they come back slender and healthy and off 18 prescription drugs. And the doctor just says, well, I don't know why that worked, but just keep on doing what you're doing.
Yep.
No curiosity as to why his patient now is magnificently healthy. So they refuse to learn. Many of them do. It's an absolute necessity that we learn now. There's something we are going to relaunch. I call it the personal clinical trial. So it's a chance for people to answer health questions on their own. So an example I use, for instance, let's just say you have a person who wants to know whether vitamin D reverses the pain and disability of ankylosing spondylitis, which is a terrible disease of your spine. Your spine is frozen. So he goes on one of our social media sites and he organizes, let's say, 30 people to take 10,000 units of vitamin D and then rate their pain and stiffness 0 to 10, 0 none, 10 bad, day 0, day 90. And then after 30 days, they just compare results and report back average reduction in pain and stiffness with vitamin D. They talk about this, that people are able to develop answers on their own. And we use tools that are benign. We don't use drugs. We don't use frontal lobotomies and exploratory laparotomies. We use nutritional supplements and exercise tools, and now some of the new health tools we have for smartphones and other things. And so it's this brave new world, JJ, where we have incredible power over health. We just need a little benign guidance and the capacity to collaborate.
Well, here's the other key thing that's so important there is you're putting the responsibility back where it should be. Like one of the biggest challenges I have with insurance is I believe insurance should be for catastrophic situations and not reward people for taking crappy care of their health, right? Like we should all take personal responsibility for our health and really start to connect the dots between what we're eating and how we feel, how we sleep and how we feel. And that's what you're doing here. And that is so powerful.
Excellent, Jade. Excellent idea. I think as people, I get such tools as the Apple Watch and Fitbits. I'm wearing my Oura Ring, which is a ring from Sweden that tracks my sleep and heart rate.
It's awesome, isn't it?
It's really pretty darn amazing. And people, it's going to re-engage. I don't want to give people the idea they have to spend hundreds of dollars for new devices. It's just an option for many people. And a lot of these things can be done the old-fashioned way, too. One of the most powerful health tools I've ever come across is a glucose meter, checking blood glucoses. And you can use blood glucose meters, as you know, to lose weight, accelerate weight loss. Yep. And even though it's used to track blood sugars in diabetics, what the doctor didn't tell his patients was that you can use a glucose meter to get rid of type 2 diabetes quite effectively, just by changing the rules of blood sugars a little bit. So these tools are proliferating at such a rapid rate now. And so what I hope to do is cultivate a conversation that helps people understand how to put these to use without the doctor getting off drugs, enjoying slenderness, enjoying health on a scale that wasn't before so quickly and easily possible.
So I love that whole idea of what you manage, you can, or what you measure, you can manage. And that really is it. We need to be managing these things because then you'll start to go, wow, when I ate that, this happened to my blood sugar, or I felt this way. I don't think I'm going to do that again. It takes out that whole idea of I'm just going to have a cheat meal, which is Right. So there is a little scary part here though. And, it is people going on the internet and like finding out all these things and then becoming their own diagnostician. Do you see any risks there? Are you worried about that?
I grappled with that for about 10 years because that can be hazardous. If people say, I've got a funny rash and funny gastrointestinal symptoms, what is it? So I kind of flip-flop, for at least my Undoctored purpose and program. I flipped the whole idea on its head. And I said, I tell you what, here's what I'm seeing. Engage in these 6 basic strategies. And these are strategies familiar to you and your listeners. This is elimination of all grains and sugars, restoration of omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, iodine/thyroid normalization, magnesium, and cultivation of bowel flora with probiotics, prebiotics, and fermented foods. So 6 basic strategies. If people just get the details of that, those 6 basic strategies correct. Whether you were labeled with rheumatoid arthritis, migraine headaches, type 2 diabetes, obesity, eczema, psoriasis, or acid reflux, it doesn't matter because within days, weeks, and in some instances months, you won't have those conditions anymore, regardless what the label was. So the vast majority of these so-called diseases of lifestyle go away with those 6 basics. Now, not to say there aren't other things you can add on for other reasons, other purposes, etc. But those 6 basic strategies have the capacity to reverse the great majority of human disease. All
right, let's repeat those ones again, because here's the deal. If you do these 6 things, then if you do have some issue, then you can go to the doctor. If it's still there, they can really go down into the underlying cause and figure it out. So this should be step 1 no matter what. So you rattle those off so fast. Go through them again.
It's elimination of all grains and sugars, omega-3 fatty acid restoration, fish oil. Fish oil only, by the way, of course. Vitamin D restoration, iodine, and normalization of thyroid, because as you know, so many people's thyroids are all mucked up now. Magnesium supplementation, and then cultivation of bowel flora with a combination of probiotics and prebiotics and fermented foods. So, not that many. I mean, as you know,
this is simple stuff that is easy to do, inexpensive. And again, I love things that give you, put the, power back into our hands, but also give us little wins. Like you do those things, the way you feel changes so dramatically. And these are simple shifts,
Yes. There's also a very peculiar synergy that I don't fully understand, JJ. I don't know why, if you leave one component of those 6 out, you won't get the full effect. I call this a 2 + 2 = 11 effect. If you make sure you do each and every one of those and get them right, you get this huge synergistic effect where the end result is far bigger than any single component. And so but you're right, there are going to be conditions. For instance, calcium oxalate kidney stones do not fully respond to this. There's about 2 other steps you have to take. But by the way, I provide those protocols. I call these Undoctored protocols. The additional steps you can take for a handful of conditions, like calcium oxalate kidney stones or coronary disease. You add these 1, 2, or 3 additional steps, and you have magnificent control over these conditions. But the great majority of health conditions, common health conditions, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, acid reflux, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, on and on, respond to these 6 basic strategies. And so that's how I got around this whole question whether people should diagnose themselves. Because diagnosing yourself can be hazardous, and I don't generally recommend people do that, at least not at current state of knowledge, but don't sweat the diagnosis because you probably won't have it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You won't have to worry about it because it'll just go away. Because I'm pretty sure it wasn't a prescription deficiency. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
That's right. Exactly.
All right. I'm going to turn this on over to spotlight you and throw you a little curveball here. So what's the one thing that you do every day that you feel makes the biggest difference in your life?
Well, I've remained grain-free. I know if I have any kind of exposure, and now it would only be inadvertent, I pay for it dearly. So I have to be sure I do that. I cringe to think what I felt like, JJ. I live in Wisconsin, where the latitude is very north, and it's dark and cold here 6 months a year, unlike where you live. And so lack of sunlight is a big, big issue. And I used to experience 6 months of depression and struggling to work, and I have to dose myself with coffee, anything. Once I got on board with vitamin D, it all dissolved, and I was happy even in January. So those two basic things turned my life around. Thyroid became an issue for me also, so I have to pay attention to thyroid. And bowel, so all the same issues that apply to everybody else also applied to me. I had to deal with my own small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. I think that's an issue that is underappreciated.
Oh my goodness, it's incredible. It really is. You know what happened with that? I was helping Suzanne Summer's stepdaughter, and she literally got sent to me by a doctor who said, she just needs a cheerleader, right? She needs a cheerleader. You can do it. I'm like, wow, okay, well, thanks, and she needs to exercise more. She can't lose weight. This poor girl, 40 pounds overweight, she was like pristine on all of her stuff. But she had, gas and bloating. So every doctor she went to gave her probiotics. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And I'm like, So, and that was when I first learned about it. I didn't know the name for it. It was like, I think there wasn't even much discussion. Like back then, finally, a couple years later, one of my buddies was like, hey, have you heard of this? I'm like, I've seen it, So it's that SIBO and SIFO are such big deals that just, we don't talk about. I'm glad that the whole gut microbiome is getting front and center now, and people are starting to understand that it can change everything from weight loss to your mood. It's like
huge effects.
Huge. So I know you've got something super cool for everybody, and I put this at jjvirgin.com/undoctored. You've got your micro course. What's that? And it's free, which is even cooler.
It's just an introduction to some of the ideas, why I say these things. Saying things like how you can be smarter than your doctor makes some people mad. I've gotten some hate mail.
Oh boy, that's good. That means you're ruffling feathers. We actually, in my care, we give awards when people get hate mail because we know you're actually making a difference. You don't change lives when you're just doing the status quo, right?
Exactly. But what they think I'm saying is that I'm going to have you read reams of books and papers and get... No. What I mean is we tap into the collective knowledge of the world. And that presumed expert called a doctor really has a very limited skill and knowledge set. Very limited. There's only so much one person can keep in his head, no matter how smart, no matter how specialized. But you and I have the collective knowledge of the world to draw from. We can draw from thousands of people. We can get their feedback. And this is not my speculation. This is fact. When you put the minds of dozens to hundreds to thousands, tens of thousands of people together, you exceed the knowledge of any one single expert. You exceed the knowledge of even several experts. And that's the kind of knowledge we have access to. You don't have the kind of knowledge of hospitals and drugs and procedures that the doctor has, but you have knowledge to draw from in health. Because as you know, the healthcare system is bent on building revenues for insiders, for healthcare insiders. We don't give a crap about that. We just want health. So we focus on questions relevant to health.
So you can grab this micro course. This is such great stuff. And I just love that you were courageous and took a stand on this, because I know you're getting backlash on it. So, I read the title and went, oh boy, he's getting in trouble. So I'm so glad you didn't shy away from it. So again, you can jump in and get that course at jjvirgin.com/undoctored. And of course, go get the book. Get the book Undoctored. We vote with our wallet. Learn how to really just jump in and take even more responsibility for your health. And hopefully you'll never need to see, docs more for than an annual checkup in your labs and all that stuff. So I super appreciate you being here. It's a pleasure. We've got to do this more than every 2 years.
Absolutely, JJ.
That's ridiculous.
I'm thrilled to do it.
Okay, good. So I'm gonna count on that then. I just got that in a recording, so that's it. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Now, after the break, I'll be answering a listener's question, so stay with me.
It's scary, but true. Sugar is hiding everywhere. In diet foods, packaged foods, dressings, and even sugar substitutes. It's not about cutting out all sugar. It's knowing which sugars to choose and which to lose. What if you could drop 7 hidden sugars, lose up to 10 pounds in just 2 weeks? JJ Virgin will show you how with a simple 4-step plan to cut cravings and rev up your metabolism to lose fat fast. And forever. Visit jjvirgin.com/books and order the Sugar Impact Diet. You can shed up to 10 pounds in 2 weeks. Visit jjvirgin.com/books.
Welcome back. This is the time where I answer a listener's question, and today's question comes from Judy in Palm Coast, Florida, and she says, all right, what's the scoop here? I hear about cheat meals. I hear about being able to blow it on the weekend and do well during the week. You know, really, is it wrong to have just a little extra something on the weekends? I'll get right back on track on Monday. Okay. You know, I've been saving this one for a while, Judy, because the cheat meal thing always makes me a little bit nuts. And I think it's a perfect time to bring it up because here's the deal. And this is what Dr. Bill Davis talks about in Wheat Belly, what I saw in the Virgin Diet is when you're intolerant to a food, when a food is toxic to you, like gluten is and like sugar is, a little bit creates a major problem. And I'm just willing to bet that when you're going off to what I call retox on the weekend or have a little cheat meal, you're not having a little extra salmon, right? You're going for the pizza, you're going for the bread, you're going for cheese, you're going for something that normally makes you feel crappy and you want to just have a little bit of it. But a little bit of it creates a just massive amount of inflammation. And that actually sets you off onto a bad path where you're going to start craving it more and more and more. And so I love this whole concept that Dr. Bill Davis talks about in his book, Undoctored, about really, you know, you taking control of this and you really connecting the dots between, you know, what you're eating and then replacing nutrient deficiencies and balancing your gut microbiome. Because when you do that, you realize, hey, that cheat meal, like, is not worth it because, hey, it might taste good for the moment, but the inflammation that's going to happen for days afterwards, come on. Like, I know that if I eat some gluten, my fingers are swelling up. Now, of course, I always keep some safety net with me, my product that helps digest gluten, dairy, and soy and block carbs. I keep it with me when I travel because you never know when that crap sneaks in, even despite your best efforts. But, you know, I know how those things make me feel. I've connected the dots. And I think you do too, by the way you asked the question. So the cheat meal, the retoxing is just not worth it. And the problem is it's not about what that little thing is. It's about what happened inside your chemistry lab. And what it did was it's like you just put a torch to the flame and started a whole bunch of inflammation. And that's what creates disease. And besides us just feeling rotten and aging faster and gaining weight. So no cheat meals. No. All right. If you'd like to submit a question, just head on over to my Facebook page at JJ Virgin Official or over to Instagram at jj.virgin. Look for the little blue checks. Those are me. I love checking out the questions there, and I love to we stockpile up the ones that we just are like, got to answer this on the show. And of course, we're in there answering them all the time too. So pop on over there and hang out with me. Okay, this is the gratitude portion of the show where I highlight the review of the week. And, you know, we read each and every one of these reviews, and we meaning the team, this is how we get our good grades. So we super appreciate that. And it makes a big difference. So today's review is from Posh Fit from the USA. And Posh Fit says, genuine heart, latest information, 5 stars. I love JJ Virgin's show and all the great guests she interviews. It's all about the latest health research, unique developments, and useful ways to improve your life, your body, and your mind. JJ could be my BFF. We think so alike. Lots of gratitude for your work, JJ. Thank you. Thank you, Posh Fit. Super appreciate it. Hope we run into each other at some point. And again, I really appreciate those reviews. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining me, everyone, today. I hope you loved this information. This information is definitely something that you can take action on right away. Now, I know if you're listening, you're probably gluten-free and probably doing very low, if any, grains at all, following the sugar impact diet. And then you heard some other information. These are things we've talked a lot about on the show, microbiome balance and fish oil. Gosh, we've talked a lot on fish oil. And of course, vitamin D with some vitamin K always, and magnesium. So these are all such key things to make sure that you are doing. And the biggest message here and the biggest takeaway is that, when you take personal responsibility for your health, you put the power back in you and your hands. And that's where it belongs. And all this information that I'm bringing you each and every week, it's only powerful if you use it. So go out there, use it, make it a great week, and I'll see you next week.